In this video, I show students on Mac OS how to install all the software they need for CISC124. If you viewed the previous version of this video, I apologize. Everything seemed to work when I did it the first time, but then when I rebooted my computer, nothing worked. So Eclipse wouldn't start and all sorts of other problems happened. So this seems to work. So the first thing we need to do is we need to install a JDK, a Java Development Kit. You should get the one from Oracle. So you want to go to www.oracle.com/Java and click Download Java. And then you want the latest version of Java, which is Java 16. And so you click on the download button here. And you look for the Mac OS installer, and you download that. So you want to click on that, download, save it to file. Now I've already done this, so I'm just going to open that up in Finder. Right, you should get that file right there. So when you have that file, you can double click on it, and then double click on that file there. And then just follow the steps in the installer. There's really nothing for you to choose. I've already installed this, so I'll just quickly go through it again. And there we go. This may go slower for you if you have a slower internet connection than I have. So we close that. I'm going to keep the installer just in case I have to make this video again. Now you want to check to make sure that Java has been installed correctly. So you want to open up a terminal. So that's command space, type terminal. And then in your terminal, type Java space -version, enter. And it should be Java version 16 installed. Okay, so I'm just going to minimize that. Now that you have a JDK installed, you want to install Eclipse. So Eclipse is the integrated development environment that we used in this course. Again, in the previous version of this video, I showed you how to do this without using the installer. I think that's actually one of the problems. If you do it that way, if you reboot, the Eclipse will complain, or Mac will tell you that you don't have permissions to open Eclipse. And I'm not sure how to fix that. So download the installer, click download, and again, save the file. Don't open it, right? I've already done this. You'll end up with the Eclipse installer for Mac 64. Double click. And then double click the installer. Open. Okay, now before you do anything, if you already followed the original instructions, you're probably okay if you did it the way I showed you to. If you want to double check, you can open up your terminal again, and in your terminal type ls. And if you see in the list of folders and files that appear, if you see Eclipse, you want to delete it. So if you see Eclipse, you want to type remove rm -r Eclipse, and then press enter, and that will delete the old Eclipse installation. It shouldn't be there for if you follow the instructions from the first video. Okay, so back to this. You want to click on the Eclipse IDE for Java developers. Okay, now you need to check this thing right here. So this is the Java the JDK that Eclipse will use. If you're doing this for the first time, this should be fine. If you did it, if you followed the instructions from the previous video, you have to double check that this is correct. So click that button there. And make sure that you are using the JDK 1602 JDK, not the Open JDK 11 that I told you to install in the first version of this video. Right, use that one there, press OK. Notice the installation folder, right? It's in your home directory under a folder called Eclipse, right? Under a folder called Java 2021-06. So press install. If you have a slower internet connection than mine, this is going to take a while. And you may see a warning message up here saying that something is taking longer than it should. That's fine. Just let it finish. Okay, and Eclipse is now installed. You can go ahead and press the launch button. Let's do that. And Eclipse opens up here. I'm just going to minimize everything. Okay, so the launcher will always ask you which workspace do you want to be in. The workspace is just the folder that Eclipse was using the last time you closed it. So this is the first time we've opened it, so there's no, it tries to use a default workspace folder. I don't recommend you use this folder. Instead, I recommend you organize your files in a sensible way. So in your documents directory, create a folder called CISC124, right? Just right click, new folder. And in your CISC124 folder, make a new folder called workspace. And we'll use that for all of our Eclipse files. At this point, it's also important to note that Eclipse doesn't like it if you move files using the using Finder manually, right? So don't go into your workspace directory and start moving files around. Eclipse will be very unhappy with you. If you want to move files around, you need to do it from within Eclipse itself. Okay. And whatever you do, don't, well, I guess it's okay if you move the workspace directory, but don't reorganize things inside the workspace directory unless you really know what you're doing. So back in Eclipse, we can browse to that workspace directory. So under Documents, CISC124 Workspace, and launch. Eclipse is quite slow to start up, so you'll have to wait a few seconds while it sets things up. And this is what you see the first time you run Eclipse. You don't need this, so you can just hide this. And over here, you'll see some options. So we want to create there'll be create a Java project, which is what we want to do. So we'll create a simple Java project just to show you how to do it. For your project name, make sure you don't use spaces in the name or any funny characters, right? So underscore is fine, but stick to letters and numbers. So I'm just going to call this first project. Don't do what I did in the first version of this video and create a project called CISC124, because then you won't be able to import the notes project, because it's also called CISC124. Next. You don't have to choose anything here. Finish. It's going to ask you to create a module. Don't create it. So modules are a feature that were introduced in Java 9 that are used to organize your code. They're great if you have tons and tons of code, but we don't have that much code here, and they're just going to get in the way. So don't create a module here. And there's your first project. So if you click the little arrow beside it, you'll see that there's a folder called SRC. That's your source code folder. That's where your Java files will go. So if you right click there, you can do new class. Alternatively, in Eclipse, you can do file new class. So let's just make the traditional hello world program that every new programmer learns how to do. In Java, every program starts running from a method called main. So we'll create one of those too. And you'll get the hello world class. Right. Okay, so you can delete that line and we'll print out hello world. So to print out something in Java, it's system dot out dot print print ln, and then in double quotes the string that you want to print. So we'll print out hello world, and every line or every statement in Java ends with a semicolon. I'll get rid of that. Okay, so now you want to save. You can use the little disk image here, or you can do Command S. And now you can run by pressing the green button. And you'll see down here it prints out hello world. Okay, if you have downloaded the course notes already and unzipped them somewhere, you can now import the source code for all of the notes. So to do that, you want to do File, Import. Under General, you want to choose Existing Projects into Workspace. Now, the Eclipse project for the course notes are provided as a zip file. So you want to select an archive file and browse for that. Now, I don't know where they are on your computer. On mine, they're in the notes folder. So if you've unzipped this file here that contains the notes, in the notes folder, there's this file here called CISC124 Notes Eclipse Project. And that's the file you want. So you can open that. If you haven't downloaded it yet, don't worry about it. Download it, extract the notes, and do it later. Notice that opens up a project called CISC124. Click Finish. And you'll see up here in the CISC124 folder are all of the packages containing the source code that are in the notes. Right? So you have access to all of this. And that's Eclipse. So we'll close that. And then in the next part of this video, I'll show you how to install the software needed to look at the course notebooks. Now, the course notes, so you'll get lecture slides in PowerPoint, but the course notes are provided as Jupyter notebooks. You can use the notebooks online, or you can use them locally on your own computer, which I actually recommend doing, because if you have them on your own computer, you can edit the notebooks. You can edit the notebooks and you can keep the edits on your computer. Whereas if you use the online version, you can still edit the notebook, but every time you open up the notebook, it defaults back to its original state. So you can't see any notes that you've made or anything like that. Now, it's everything's in Jupyter, which means you need to install a Jupyter environment for that. The easiest way to do that is to install Anaconda. And so you want to go to anaconda.com. You can type in the whole URL if you want. If you just go to Anaconda, you'll end up here. You can just click Get Started, and then you can see, where is it? Sorry, here we go. Download the Anaconda installers and download the Mac installer here. This will also install Python installation for you, but it's separate from your existing Python installation, so you don't have to worry about it overwriting your current Python. Okay, when you do that, you will get that file there. And again, just double click and run the installer. Right. So it's pretty straightforward. Okay, when you get to the PyCharm IDE step, PyCharm is a development environment for Python. You don't need that. So you just continue there. Summary, you can close now. I'll keep it for now, but you can move it to the trash if you want to. And that installs Jupyter. And now we need one more piece of software. And that's something called BeakerX. So BeakerX.com will take you to here. So BeakerX is a set of what are called kernels for the Jupyter notebooks. And BeakerX, the BeakerX kernels provide a Java kernel, which we need for this course. So you want to install that. So go to the documentation. And basically, you want to type in those 4 lines into a terminal. So back to my terminal. I want to type in this. So you can just copy and paste. Or not. Sorry, you need to open up a new terminal. There we go. Okay, so now we can do the conda command. You now need to do the next line. No, maybe it's just faster to type source activate BeakerX. And then the next line. And then finally the last line. So it's the last line that actually installs all of the BeakerX stuff. And this will take some time. Okay, and then once it's done installing, that's it. You've installed all the software you needed for the course. There's a separate video that shows you how to use the Jupyter Notebooks and BeakerX to view the course notebooks. So check out that video on OnCue.